So my name is Stephen Mutoro. I'm the Secretary General of the Consumers Federation of Kenya, which deals with the consumer protection. And as such, we are very interested in issues about commodity prices and, of course, the trends and patterns that would make it affordable for consumers to get the goods at an affordable prices. The impact of fuel increment in terms of price adjustment has had a lot of significance in terms of agricultural commodities. And remember that Kenyan population is more urban, and we do not farm in Nairobi. So our goods, our food, whatever we eat comes from different parts of the country. So when you increase prices in fuel, what you're saying is that the cost of transport is going to go up. And with the infrastructure as it is, then you are actually going to say that food commodity is not going to be affordable. So we should actually brace ourselves as consumers that the skumas we've been buying at say 10 shillings is likely to cost us more than 20 shillings, more than 100%. Yeah. So the impact is instant, is monumental, and I think, yeah, we are going to feel it as consumers because we stand for a strong and competitive market. And remember, we cannot be consumers without suppliers. The suppliers must make margins. That margin must be paid by the consumers. But who's protecting the consumers? That would be one of the questions, of course, we'll discuss. Obviously, these are not very good times for this country. At the same time, we have very weak shilling. We have very high levels of inflation. We have very high unpredictable. We are not predictable in terms of investment. We have no foreign direct investments coming to this country anymore. Kenya has just become uncompetitive, and it's difficult to do business. You remember the manufacturer now saying, if you increase the wage bill, then they're not going to employ more people. But it's also ridiculous for manufacturers to say so, because if the cost of living is going up, then we need the minimum wage also to be increased by the same margin. So in a nutshell, Kenya is very uncompetitive, but we must do something to protect the consumers.
Now we have very good farmers in this country, but we have seen a problem with transport. What needs to be done so that we can ease the burden on farmers, those on produce never reaching the target market?
Yeah, the infrastructure is terrible. I think our road coverage network is obviously less than 10%, talking about more agricultural productive areas, especially the western, the Rift Valley, and parts of the other country that are agricultural productive. Now we have a problem here, because if you have a non-supporting infrastructure, then you're saying the cost of transport goes up. Why? Because the cost of maintenance of motor vehicles and other agricultural machineries are going to be very high to maintain. So it becomes very uncompetitive to do any transport business. Remember agriculture, remember consumerism, and everything else relies between transporting goods and services between the farmer and the consumer. And very basic also, it's about farm inputs, because farm inputs like fertilizers are not manufactured within the rural areas. They must come from somewhere, whether it's Mombasa, to the rest of the country. So if you make the cost of transport very high because of the potholes and actually no road, or you basically make it impossible for the farmers and even business suppliers for the farm inputs. So one reason we're seeing shortage of say the farming inputs like fertilizer and seed is because of infrastructure. You can move some goods very quickly within a short while between Mombasa to say the North Rift or the western part of this country without having to undergo a lot of stress in terms of the fuel costs, in terms of maintenance costs. So it's really expensive to transport any item between one part of the country to another. Remember, it's two-way. Farm inputs come from urban areas. The farm produce have to go to the urban areas for consumption. So that's where we have a major problem.
We also have the strike on road farming foods, and it's good for business people on the What is the role of garden execution?
Now, the interesting perspective here about when we have issues about is actually about feedback mechanism. Government today is behaving like it's not in touch with the people of this country. We can't wait for the time we'll have the county